Welcome to the Creative Voice Archive, a growing collection of conversations of the arts, where I talk about the ideas, the inspirations, and what it's like to be a creative today. My name's Tim Burgess, and welcome to the Creative Voice Archive. On this episode of Create the Voice Archive, I'm talking to no other than Bristol-based artist Ben Boston, who has spent more than 3 decades turning drawings into permanent works of art on the human body. In this conversation, we talk about his journey into tattooing, begin the craft of working with skin, and what it means to dedicate a life of making art that people carry with them forever. This is Ben Boston for the Creative Voice Archive. Hi Ben, so my first question to you, if you don't mind me asking, I want to start with your, say, you've been making images since you were a kid, basically, and then putting them onto skin for decades now, as you know, and I just want to know, can you tell me a bit more about how that journey started?
Well, I always say to people I've been drawing as soon as I could pick a crayon up, and thankfully had very supportive parents of my artistic endeavours, so I was always fed a hell of a lot of materials by them and space to do so, I was never short of pens, pencils, drawing pads, anything that kept me off of the walls and the skirting boards basically. And my grandfather in particular, he used to bring me home packaging materials from his work that was just being thrown out, sheets of card and things like that. They were very useful for me to draw and make models from, so creatively I was always very well fed. Back in the days before tablets and things, such as things, I was a very analogue, hands-on, a little creative kind of mind just being fed, luckily, by my parents, so it kind of basically never stopped. I always needed something to do, and I knew I had to do something creative with my life as a job. So really, I just couldn't imagine myself not doing something creative. And when I found myself in a little Saturday job at college that became a full-time job, and I was just working as a chemist, and I found it stultifyingly boring, and I found myself drawing on receipts, drawing on every little scrap of paper I could in spare minutes, and one day I just got really annoyed in the middle of the day, quit in the middle of the day, and I'm glad I did, because the next day I went out and that day I went out with my portfolio, got it together. The next day I was actually going around conventions, shops, tattoo shops, trying to talk to people about getting into the industry, failing miserably and getting told to, go away in polite terms for a lot of the time. But eventually I got a good little in and basically got a bit of encouragement, and that kind of led me on the start of the path of where I am here. So.
Yeah, I understand that you were 6 when you first exhibited a work, is that right?
So basically I did an artwork at school, primary school, and my teachers thought it was very good, and it went into, I believe, obviously I was 36 at the time, an exhibition of the best of the West of England or something. So,
wow.
Various schools, I believe it was wider than Bristol, but I could be wrong. But yeah, it certainly caused a bit of a stir at the school. So.
How did that feel?
Felt quite good at the time, yeah. I mean, I'm quite an introvert, quite shy to be honest with you. But through my art, I kind of like that kind of attention. So in other ways, I really was very, very shy and closed. But it was a way to connect with people, I think.
Oh, wow. So you studied art formally for a little bit, and then you decided that it wasn't for you. How did that go?
So, as someone who I didn't really get on with senior school for various reasons, but college I found quite good for a lot of it. I did a few different courses, never quite saw them all out. was for various reasons again. I did a mixed media course at Old Brunel College that was kind of encompassing a bit of art, but also photography, filmmaking, sound recording. Found that actually quite interesting, doing storyboards, things like that. And then I moved on to an art course because I figured it was more for me. And I spent a bit of time on that. That didn't kind of quite pan out for me, so I moved on to another course eventually. But I did in the meantime leave college, and at that point my part-time job became my full-time job. I think just some things about college tuition and kind of where it was going, what it was doing for me, it just something wasn't quite working.
So you wanted to, this how tattooing became your own path.
Yeah, I mean, I think for some reason I think I was kind of living a bit of a, for want of a better word, my friends kind of helped usher me into a bit of myself a little bit. They freed me, because I was very shy, very introverted growing up, and I think the friends that I made in college, they kind of opened my mind as much as some of the college life itself did. And again, at that point, it kind of made me realise I needed to do something creative with my life. And the aspects of the music I was into, the kind of scene I was into, it kind of lent itself very well to tattooing, kind of being
so
an aspect of it.
Influenced as well.
And seeing friends get tattoos and things, it was all kind of starting to coalesce a little bit, and they would encourage me. I would draw fake tattoos on myself and on them, quite big ones, kind of, all the way up the arm, not just like little ones. And I could perfect the kind of look of them sitting in the skin, not like a fake tattoo.
Okay.
With my technique, and they kind of encouraged me to, you should think about getting a career in this. And it was a very closed shop, very closed industry back then. Kind of
still kind of is effectively, isn't it, for the pros to be underneath the, like yourself, that's got the experience of 30 plus years to actually work alongside them, that's got the old school knowledge, as we say, is a skill in itself. I think it's pretty much somewhat underappreciated as the arts to be recognised. And going on to that, I mean, how did you feel when you first put ink to skin? You know what I mean? That moment, it must have been, let's say, and it came out well. That first time, it really came out well. That's something you're really proud of. How did you feel? I mean, was your confidence level right? Yeah, I can do this. Just like concreted it for you at that point, or was it when you were working on skin? The training aspect that you felt confident.
I think having drawn fake tattoos on people, kind of, I think it stood me in a good stead. So like dealing with 3D shapes and kind of figuring out how to fit a tattoo onto a body. Rather than just slapping little ones. That's wrap.
We've seen some of your big works, so that's why I was explaining that some of them are like crazily intricate, but so detailed, and the shading, and it's like a proper piece of art, but on someone's body. You know what I mean? Which is
making it fit around the body of the 3D, and working with human bodies, flesh, skin, contours, muscles, movement, dynamic. There's a lot involved in that. But I think early days, I think that probably put me in good stead. The kind of drawing on before I started tattooing, and then when I was actually given the opportunity in my apprenticeship to start actually putting ink on people, that's a very it's a big step. And then you realise obviously the permanency of it. The nerves were incredible. I think I had a 5-minute warning that I was going to do my first tattoo by my mentor, and I think I was shaking so much I didn't think I needed to turn the machine on. But 5-minute warning, and I was massively nervous, and I remember it was only a bit of colouring in. He'd done the outline on some Gothic old English letters on this punk dude's stomach, and I coloured it in, effectively shaded it in, and massively nerve-wracking, but it felt exactly as I thought it would feel. So that was kind of a good thing, that it didn't perturb me or throw me too much. I knew it was going to be a huge learning curve to get through lots of different techniques and different things. Obviously, different tattoos have different challenges, but as a starting point, it was like, whew, okay. It was like, that's out of the way, and then I just slowly did a bit more over the time that suited, when we had volunteers who would let me loose on their skin. Started off just colouring, just my mentor would do the outlines, and you go, there you go, it's your turn to, and then eventually I learnt some outlining, and then eventually I would do a whole tattoo from start to finish. And I've seen a few of them still, 30 years later. Some of them are, you look back and you definitely know it was a beginner doing it, that's for sure. Tattoos all age to varying degrees, good or bad. But yeah, it's still interesting looking back as an archive. I think that's what's interesting about tattooing is, it is an archive walking around. All over the world. Your work is still there, it's out there, unless it's been covered up for you. Yeah.
On another question, moving on, sorry. How important is doing compared to learning theory of art? Do you remember doing that at college? So how important is you the actual doing of it more so?
In terms of tattooing, there's a hell of a lot of theory that you can learn, and now there are way more opportunities and ways to learn the theory, because there are so many colleges, courses. Knowledge is infinitely shareable online these days. People are willing to share. Certainly back when I was learning, it was closed shop. You would not find anyone to teach you or talk to you about it. Very much changed now for the better in terms of freedom of information and knowledge, which is good. But in terms of the actual thinking, knowing versus actually doing, the practicality of working with skin, with bodies, and more importantly, just the kind of chairside manner is a huge side of tattooing. So yes, you have your general artistic parts of art tattooing, which anyone can do something on a bit of paper or a bit of fake skin. Translating it onto human living, breathing, reacting, very different. So many different types of skin, so many different types of reaction, physiological, mental, etc. Again, going back to the chairside manner, calming nerves, getting people to relax. And it's just the sheer variety, I think, but the learning on the actual job of actual tattooing, once you start, you never really stop. In my opinion, I'm learning all the time still, because there will be different types of skin on one different person. Their skin varies immensely from one place to another. The different kind of elasticity, toughness, etc., and how tattoo ages in certain places. But that goes for that can all change between individuals, and it's something that you just don't stop learning. So yeah, the doing is very different to the think,
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
So
Chairside manner is kind of important. I had a girl crying a lot the other day. Bless her, first tattoo, so I was calm, nice as I could be with her. She with her mum and boyfriend here as well, but yeah, bless her. She found it quite tough. So it's chairside manner. It's really important not to worry or bully or upset any customer. You have to really, it's quite a vulnerable, prone moment when they're in a chair. So you got to look after them. Like a surgeon does.
Is there one that hit home for you, do you think, when you, like a memorial tattoo or something like that?
I think
you had to design for them. Did it hit home for you as well?
The thing about tattooing is I found you're never very far away from, Memorial's death, and it's a very poignant time for the person coming in the chair. I've got my own memorial tattoos to motorcycle racers that I followed, and my dad, bless him, who died. So yeah, it's something that is a hugely powerful thing, getting a memorial tattoo. And I always think back to one particular memory I've got of, it's quite an honour, I think, doing it for these people, but this one in particular, this girl came in and she said she wanted a little tattoo, which is a copy of her brother's tattoo. He was terminal, unfortunately, and near the end. And so I think we did their tattoo on the Monday, and I think she showed him on the Tuesday, and he died on the Wednesday. But knowing each other, that they both had that tattoo, the connection that she would carry on, and that he died with knowing that she'd got it. I keep it here as a reminder to, it says, love thyself, and there's a lot tied up in that. The memory of that little job is important, but it's also a little reminder to myself to, not be too hard on myself. But I got a thank you card from that girl a little while after, just saying that he had died in that little time frame, and it's like the power of that little tattoo is immense. And as much as full sleeves, back pieces, bodysuits, etc., have cachet, power, an impact. Little tattoos like that is another thing to keep a reminder that those little tattoos are so important to do to those people, and don't just think, I'm only wanting to do big, powerful pieces. Stay connected, stay humble, stay grounded.
That's another tattoo, isn't it? I'm just trying to get to an establishment now for anyone that's coming through, because you are one of the, I'm going to say it, you're one of the big tattooists out of all the tattoo shops in Bristol area. I know that much, and I know you're pretty well known in conventions as well. So, what did your apprenticeship feel like when you managed to get through that door? Finally I'm accepted. That must have been huge. From going for them conventions of dreaming to being in a shop to that point, must have been massive.
Yeah, I think the journey of from where dreaming to get into the trade to where I am now, I always remember the challenges at the time, and that's why I'm always as helpful as I can be to any prospective apprentice or someone trying to get into the trade. I try and be as encouraging as I possibly can, because I know some of the slam doors I had, but
sometimes you're going to have to, though, because they think they can, and you've been in the business long enough to go, no, you can't. Unfortunately, it is that, or you've got nothing to offer them.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you have to kind of sort the wheat from the chaff, and I think there's got to be like something called, I guess, the right stuff in terms of trying to get into the trade. It's a very broader kind of church now, I think, they're tattooed, so someone for everyone in terms of style, in terms of attitude and kind of vibe of the studio, and you can kind of tailor make it a little bit more, I think, for yourself these days. But I had to kind of come through and just be a kind of a do whatever comes in the door, and I still like to be that way in terms of being inclusive to everybody, and also their styles and what they would like. So I try and do almost any subject, almost any style. But yeah, going back to the question, how did it feel getting into, it was a gamble. I've got to say that when I got fed up of working in my job, that it was just a Saturday job that became a full-time job. It was good money, but I knew I couldn't do that just for that, and I had to get a reward. I had to have a kind of a career rather than just a job. And so when I quit in the middle of the day at that time, and it felt like a bit of a gamble, but also it spurred me on. I knew what I had to do, so getting the portfolio together, going around, knocking on doors, etc. And getting feedback as well was good, certainly from a couple of people. One shop in particular in Bristol renowned for being a bit fairly gruff, but I had some very good feedback and conversation in there, and it did spur me on and help me in the next steps. And then eventually, right place, right time, walking into this shop with the mentor that was here at the time that took me on. That first early doors, early kind of days it's quite daunting, but also exciting. Daunting insofar as, it's something you want to do, it's very exciting, but also like, I don't want to mess this up because it's such a rare opportunity. So I was very nervous around that kind of, making the wrong move. But it worked out, so I'm still here 30 years later. So.
Well, yeah, that's it. You took over the shop in your early 20s, is that right?
Yeah, so very early doors. Probably it all kind of ended a little bit quick and a bit not in the best of ways. My mentor, unfortunately, succumbed to some of his substance use, and basically things were not hanging together well here. So it was a matter of sink or swim. Find something else or make this work. So it's probably there's no kind of set apprentice period, I guess, per se, but it was in at the deep end for sure. Would I have liked probably a few more years, a couple more years maybe, to find my feet, maybe, but again, it worked out. I'm still here. So.
That's a challenge in itself, isn't it? So,
yeah.
So what do you think it takes now? Because you've got a loyal following. What does it take as a tattooist, do you think, to gain that loyal following? Obviously, there's going to be a relevance of trust and skill, and manner, but there's bound to be that connection. Well, no, I'm going to bed, for instance. There is that connection where your customers have that they only would come to you, and that's it.
So, yeah, I mean, over the years, I don't think, some things definitely have changed, but the core thing is, if you are comfortable, obviously, first thing, a good quality of the art, the actual tattoo, the finished job is obviously quite important. Not necessarily the absolute, I mean, it is obviously a huge crux of why you get a tattoo, who you go to get it. But I think there's, for many people, particularly, or perhaps a little emotional or sensitive, the vibe of a studio, and more importantly, the vibe of the person they're spending hours and hours and hours with, often in prone positions, a bit vulnerable, half their clothes off, getting personal projects. You cannot underestimate, I think, the vibe of someone who sits there and understands you and listens to you. Appreciates you, and just lets you chill out when you do get an opportunity. But I think being comfortable around somebody is so important when you're getting something as important as a tattoo done.
So, Ben, to start rounding things up, I was just going to ask you, what do you care about now more so than what you didn't do before?
As in, sorry,
as in tattooing or your artwork, or.
In terms of aspects of tattooing, what do I care about more about tattooing now than I used to?
Yeah.
Hard to say. I think the main thing is probably that I've learned is not everything has to have a deep, meaningful connection for sure. But I find stuff that people put a lot of thought and care into what they're getting done, and do have a meaningful connection to what they get done, is far more important than something that's just fashionable and looks cool now or whatever, because having had 30 years of tattooing under my belt now, I've seen the trends come and go, and I've seen the cover-up cycles, massive cover them up, things are just fashionable now, and they go through this like peak, and then people just, it dates them. They don't want anything to do with it anymore. Something that they thought about that's connected, family, or important to them, or just something that they deeply love. Way more longevity. So I think that's why I wanted it back when I was early days of tattooing. I was like, couldn't do enough cool stuff, fashionable stuff. Now I just try and
It's kind of matured on you then.
Try and encourage people to get something that hopefully means a little something to them. It doesn't have to be massive, deep, and huge backstory to it. But inevitably, if you've got connection to it, you should regret it less.
There's I think many of us can find that. We've got an old tattoo that when we were younger. I know I have, but it does leave a story though as well. So not always. It might be a bad taste, but like you said, if you're gonna get a tattoo, first tattoo, always go small, innit? Just like you said, because when you're in your 30s, you know what you want more than what you did. And I've got one now. I ask all the arts, across the arts, and I've asked this one question, and it's a bit of a twist to it. If you can picture yourself in 5 years' time, what would you tell yourself now?
Hopefully, if I say trust your gut, that what happens in the next 5 years works out and is right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a positive outlook for the next 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, with 30 years in the industry, and certainly being the older, perhaps upper end of tattooing now, there's not that many older tattooists that are still working quite as much, as flat out as I am. I would dearly love to just slow things down a little bit, spend more time with family, have more time for
Be a bit more choosy.
And more time for other art, more importantly.
Yeah.
So more painting, drawing, sculpting. I've got a huge creative storm that's always going on in my head. I never get enough time to do these projects because I'm doing this. Yeah. And that's 6'5", it pays.
You get to the point that you can be more selective than in 5 years and go out doing that one.
I would dearly love to just be able to slow down this a little bit and do what pieces are, cherry pick, perhaps not necessarily pick exactly what I do, but just more focus on, very much more interesting kind of pieces. I don't want to say I'm only going to do things that I like or want, because I still consider myself here to provide a service. So I don't kind of turn stuff down just because it's not me.
Would you have someone in the shop then, maybe more so?
I think long term, I think realistically it'd be a shame not to kind of pass the torch and give someone an opportunity to come up, step in, and slowly I can bring them in. I do less, and I can kind of step back into the shadows a little bit, let them carry on, and then I can do some other projects. That's the dream anyway. I still love tattooing. I've got to say, it's not like I'm bored of it in the least. I still love it. I still love the customer connection. Yeah. I still love the art itself. The art of actually doing tattoos. I love the whole thing. The creative process, the reward, the composition kind of aspect of it. I love all those things, but I also know, it's the shifting sands, and as better younger artists come up, the skill that they've got, the knowledge they've used of every artist around them coalesces. They start from a really good base and they've got the wind behind them. Yeah. And some of the kids, their talent is amazing.
That's it. They've got more influences to produce something else.
Yeah, and they'll use digital to enhance their kind of work a little bit. They'll use every tool in the book that the traders thrown up towards them.
Even the guns themselves have changed over the years.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm still very old school. I'm a throwback. I'm retro now. I fully admit I am stuck in the past somewhat. So I look to the tide, the wave of kids coming into the industry, not in any way in a gatekeeping kind of manner. I look at them and I admire use, their skill, their use of technology where necessary, but they've still got to have the skill to actually put ink in the skin. And their skill is amazing. So hats off to them. Full respect. But yeah, I know my own limitations, and I see this wave of amazing talent coming, and I know that eventually I'll have to hang it up to